Do you need to be able to remove the door mirror from the door of your Saab 9.3? I'm going to show you how to remove the mirror from the door, and I'm going to show you how to do it without removing the door casing. If you're working on the driver's side rather than the passenger side, use your trim removal tool to pop out the mirror control and disconnect it. Now hook your finger behind, or if you're on the passenger side, use your trim removal tool at the top and pop out the fixing insert at the top of the trim piece. Then simply pull it upwards to remove it from the door. You can now see two of the three fixings that hold the mirror to the door. The third one down here about there. To undo these fixings, you will need a T30 Torx bit. Get your fingers behind the trim here and pull it this way away from the door and pop the top two popper fixings down this edge. You could use a large flat screwdriver, but I'd suggest putting a piece of tape on it. With two small flat screwdrivers, hold the connector into the mirror here, use the other to push down on this tag and pull the connection out. This is where the magic starts to happen. In this view, you can see where the lower fixing is. I've got two suggestions for getting at that lower Torx fixing. One is to use a T30 Torx Allen key, as long as the distance from the back there to there is no more than 25mm. The other option, if you've got some Torx bits, and you can take a T30 Torx bit and fit it into a 6mm spanner and then perhaps glue it in there with some epoxy, and because you can choose where to fit it, I would suggest leaving about 5mm out of the top end there and take that off with a grinder or a file to make its profile less. Now fit your Allen bit or your improvised tool into the head of the bolt. Steady the tool and turn it anti-clockwise to loosen the bolt. You will only be able to manage to loosen the bolt about 1/6 of a turn at a time, but you'll just have to be patient and keep going. But once you've got the bolt fairly loose, and get a finger on it, possibly two, and undo it. Of course, if you can lay your hands on a 6mm ratchet spanner that you can put the bit in, you're laughing. Once you've managed to undo the screw a few turns, stuff some tissue or a bit of cloth down into the space just below it. I've actually found that I can spin that screw down there using a screwdriver in this kind of fashion on it. I've also managed to turn it about 1/4 of a turn at a time with a magnetic pickup bit, and then once it comes out, that has the advantage of bringing it out for you. Now remove the forward corner screw and then this one, and lift the mirror away from the door. You're now free to make whatever repairs you need to, as I've shown you in other videos. If you want to make putting it back on even easier, put an M6 by 40mm stud in that hole there, and you only need to put a nut on there then. Whilst you've got the mirror off, obviously good opportunity to clean up this area, particularly this corner here. If you've got any white zinc oxide on the rubber, use a brass brush or a stiff nylon brush to clean as much of it off as you can. If you followed my advice in the other video about rebuilding these mirrors, and you've siliconed the rubber to the wing and the foam, and you're intending on sealing the mirror against wind noise, silicone round the foam. Also put a very thin bead all the way around the very edge of the wing before you put it back on. It'll squeeze out, of course, but let it set before you cut it off with a sharp craft knife. And of course, as they say in all of the best workshop manuals, putting it back on is the reverse of taking it off. Fit it into place from outside, one screw in your hand, and fit the top corner screw so that it can't fall off and smash on the pavement. If you're wanting to take this window seal off, then you also need to get this mirror off, because of course it goes under the wing. Put the upper and the front fixing in first and tighten them down. When you're putting it back on, for the bottom screw down in there, it really is an awful lot easier if you put a hex flange screw back on, M6 by 20. A dog point if you can get one. I'm using the spanner to get it into the hole. Use the screwdriver to push on the top of the head. It takes a little while, but once you've got the threads to catch, you won't need your screwdriver anymore, and it's just a case of being patient with it. You can get about 1/3 of a turn Once you've got it in a couple of 3 turns, you can remove tissue or cloth. Once you've got your screws back in, you can put the connector, the main connector, back in. You might want to use an implement to push it into place. Keep this one out. Now, the bottom of the wing has 2 clips, there and there. And those 2 clips fit into this hole here and this hole here. Slot the wing back down into the corner. You'll find you'll have to use a bit of jiggery pokery to get it back in. You should find it'll go into place quite easily. And then the final fixing up here, the round turret on the back of the wing into the clip. Then a quick smack in 2 places to reconnect the snap clips. Connect your harness to your mirror switch and push back into place. If you got value from this video, give it a like down by the title, and I'll see you next time.